Us.
Us.
Good to see you, Mitch.
So Shihan.
Hello, everyone. We're back. We've been backwards and forwards because lately they've been a little distracted with work. But anyway, here we are. We just thought we'd do a quick Q&A because we've had some interesting questions coming to us both uh, on the live stream, but also after the stream, we get some questions through comments and emails. So we thought we'd run through some of those. If you've got any questions when you come along, by all means, you're welcome to join us. The first one we want to discuss is why we call the channel Budo Training. And it's a fair call. And even as I arrived back today and I looked at my phone, there was a message about um, people selling a course on how to keep your youthfulness as you age. And they're saying it's got nothing to do with age, it's got everything to do with your mobility and so on. The ironic thing is the people offering the course are like 35 or 40
Yeah.
years old, so they have no idea. I don't mean they have no idea. They have no idea about what it means to age.
Have no experience being older because they're not.
Yes, exactly. Hi, Rochelle, Us, Marco. Good to see you. Us, Ryan. Nice to see you back. Always with that comment makes us feel our back straightens and our chest pokes out, and we're good again. Um, so, Budo training. I think what's the difference? Well, the difference between Budo training in general is that there's I guess, a spiritual aspect. It's not just training for the sake of somatic development, your strength, your speed, your cardiovascular endurance, your flexibility, and in Kyokushin, your sturdiness. So I think that's another level up. Also, other often martial arts, what we term as martial arts, have become purely sport oriented. There are people in the world that do karate as a sport simply because you know that's where the glory is. Judo, whilst judo has the amazing judo techniques that we all love, it's predominantly a sport. There's no one can argue that because all the training is geared towards winning a gold medal at the Olympics. Even Taekwondo is headed that way, and even BJJ, who I believe continues to struggle in its search for recognition as a martial art. But if you want to be recognized as a martial art in the Budo sense, I think it's got a long way to go. But it's primarily a sport. You're recognized in the sport and identified by the number of championships that you've won and so on. So Roger Gracie is the GOAT because he won incredible events. So, but Budo, in the real sense of the word, the word contains the word do. Do means the way. Dao, it's always connected to um, the Chinese Dao. And the Chinese Dao take their word from Dharma, the Sanskrit word Dharma, which in one respect means the way, but it also means one's life uh, um, commitment, if you like, the commitment to a spiritual path. So one's dharma is the role that you have to play to find optimal spiritual unfoldment, if you like. Now, that's a very esoteric way of talking about Budo training, but the main point is that the difference between normal training, gym training, PT training, physical athletic development training, and Budo is that there is that element. And as Solsai said, without strength, strength without kindness is violence, and kindness without strength is impotence. And I think that's a very powerful thing to remember. So we're not just looking to develop great skills, great martial arts skills that we can use not just in tournaments, but also in self-defense, but also the spirit of us, the spirit of perseverance, never giving up. All these qualities that Solsai uh, encouraged endlessly, and he was always talking about. He has no interest in developing a fighter who has no heart. Okay, and I think that's a really, really important point. Everyone, Victor and Nick, and Sensei Mike. Always nice to see you back. So if you've got any questions, fire them up right now. We're more than happy to help. If we can answer them, uh, we will. Probably best not to ask me about stable marriages and lifelong relationships, because I'm not the best at that.
Don't ask me about haircuts or hairstyles.
Yep, that's for sure. You had another question?
Yeah.
That came up?
Yes. How do I ask it? Basically, it's been sort of mentioned in channels before, and certainly in personal discussion with you over the years with a lot of your students, is the way that how you continue to have a certain standard of training that you accept and adhere to, I guess, is maybe the best word. Whereas it's not that you should look sideways, but sometimes when you do, there's some things that are not as valuable around, whether it's in Kyokushin or other martial arts. How have you continued to do that?
I think it's easy to get distracted. The world is a world of distraction, and everything in the world is designed to distract you. And if you think about all the things that you need to do in your training, I was actually literally thinking about this in the car coming home. Okay, if you are really super dedicated, and I'm thinking the Uchideshi, for example, if you are Uchideshi level, so we train an hour and a half in the morning, mainly the way we did it, whether it was right or wrong, was physical conditioning, flexibility in the morning. Then at some stage during the day, you do weights. They'd have to keep a diary because that would help put their thoughts together. And then at nighttime, you do the traditional full-on training, and we would literally train for two and a half hours minimum. So you're looking at 2.5, 3.5, 4, let's say 5 hours, plus your other work that you do. If you wanted to do meditation, let's add meditation. So you should be meditating, let's say, if you're dedicated to the spiritual path, maybe an hour in the morning, an hour at night, plus your study, plus your reading and your inspiration. So you're looking at 7-8 hours work if you're 100% focused, blinkers on, dedicated. But the key is this: no one has that time. No one has the time to do that. So the real purpose of that is to supply us with a framework from which we take something. And if you were to take nothing more than 1%, okay, what's that? 7 hours, let's say 7 hours, 42. So you're looking at 4 minutes. If you do nothing more than connect to your art by doing a minimum of 4 minutes of something, 4 minutes of kata, 4 minutes of conditioning, 4 minutes of meditation every day, then you have connected yourself. And I've always said that the old saying, you're only as good as your last workout, is a fallacy, because if your last workout was 20 years ago, you're nowhere near as good as your last workout. But if you did get up and do one thing, something minimum that morning, you have the right to say you're training. So I say you're only as good as this morning's workout. And I think that's very important. Now, 1% is a great starting place, especially if you're coming back after a long time and you haven't trained consistently. You want to get back into it. The problem is you want to get back into it the way you used to train 20 years ago, and your body just rebels, and the mind and everything. So start with that 1% and then add on. So let's go 2%. So now 8 minutes a day. Anyone can manage that. It just means, if nothing else, get up 8 minutes earlier. Set the alarm for 4:42 instead of 4:50 in the morning,
And that's if you're sleeping in.
Yeah, if you're sleeping in, of course. By that time, Mitch and I are just coming back and getting ready for pre-training breakfast for the second session in the morning. But anyway, here's the point. You connect yourself to your training, and you connect yourself to Budo, and you connect yourself to being honest about your training by doing a little bit every day. And cross my heart, when you get to my age, sometimes 8 minutes worth of training is all you have time to do. And sometimes, you go ups and downs. Like I just got off an airplane just literally this morning, and when Mitch rang to see if we were doing the live stream, woke me up from a bit of... So, people's lives take over. But the most important thing to remember is, don't let it take over completely. The important thing about life is that we have a task, and that task is to overcome this world that we live in, to overcome it in terms of not letting it control you, put it that way. that you have to stay in control. And the easiest way, one of the most beautiful ways, is Budo. Ryan asked a great question a couple of weeks ago: is self-realization possible? And Ryan, we haven't forgot it, but it's worthy of way more than just a short Q&A. So we've put that one aside and we're going to keep it separate. But anyway, for me, all I've done is, one, I've tried to avoid the whole thing of getting out there and being boastful, if you like, about your achievements, and living in the past. And, your connections with people are very personal, but sometimes people use that to their advantage. Basically, all I've done is I've just stuck to my guns. I just keep doing the same. Well, no, not the same thing over and over. I keep consistently regular with my training. The content of that training is nothing like the same old. I try to be quite innovative over the years and try to think outside the square. Literally, like Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result, well, then you're insane. So training requires constant thought. It requires research. Research is a piece of cake these days. You can go to X and type into Grok, what's a good way to do this? And it'll give you the most profound answer. And you go, yeah, but can you elaborate? Yeah. Oh, yeah, but I don't want to do that. Okay, well, so you can do anything pretty well. And Professor YouTube or Sensei YouTube has more information than you could ever absorb. So you need to be discriminative too. A lot of it's crap. A lot of it's not useful for you. It might be useful for someone else. So anyway, that's my answer. How do I keep it? I just consistent, regular training, and never lose sight of the goal. Never lose sight of the goal. Don't ever feel discouraged. I think that's really important. That perseverance of us. Never give up.
Well, Shihan, that's us is the perfect, because Ryan's asked, as mainly a BJJ guy these days, I've not said us in a while. So what does us mean to you guys?
Well, there you go, us. Here's a little insight for you, Ryan. Yours truly was the one that introduced the word us to BJJ back in 1995 when Professor Carlos Gracie Jr. came to Australia, stayed at my house, did a seminar in Brisbane, and about 15 of my Kyokushin students turned up. And he would go, okay, everybody, come on. They go, us. And he, okay, today I want to talk about the BJJ, us. And afterwards he goes, what's this us? And I explained it to him. He goes, Anyway, a year later, I went to his school in Irvine, California. And he goes, okay, everybody, line up. And they all go, us. And I smiled and looked at him. He went like that, So the origins of the word us, and it may have looked at, of course, other people may have started saying it too, but he really liked the philosophy of us. So the word us, if you like, there are many arguments what it means, arguments or ideas. It's, for an example, the word otsukare-sama deshita. Otsukare-sama deshita means good on you, thanks for doing your work. So thanks for doing, otsukare-sama deshita means you've done a really good job, you worked hard. At the end of training, you might, like in BJJ, when you walk around and you shake hand, my friend, you give each other a hug. In Kyokushin, you say, otsukare-sama deshita, which means you put in a great effort. Well, you might go, otsukare-sama deshita, otsukare deshita, otsukare desu, otsukare, you shorten it. Well, the same way, some people argue that os is a shortened version of ohayo gozaimasu, which means good morning. Ohayo gozaimasu, os, like that. It's just a quick way. It's like us saying, hey, or g'day, or something like that. But Sosai took it another level, and he used the kanji for it. He created the kanji for the word us, which means os, the verb push, and nin from ninja, perseverance. So it means to persevere under pressure. And that means every time you say the word, it's an affirmation, if you like, to yourself and to others, that you are confirming your dedication to keep on keeping on, to continue on the way. That under pressure, you recognize that it's pressure that turns
Rocks into
coal into diamonds. It's the same concept in that we recognize that you can train martial arts for 50 years. There's no doubt about it. Plenty of people have trained for 50 years. But what transformed, and the problem is, and it's also a problem in BJJ, because in many schools the belts are given not for any technical, spiritual, personal development, but simply for a time tenure. You get your black belt 3 years later, you get your stripe 5 years later, you get another like that, and that's deadly. That's right now it's okay because not many people have it, but in time that'll create problems, I think. Okay, but so the spirit of Urs is that, yeah, well, that might be so. I might get my second stripe or my third stripe, but I am dedicated to persevering along the way so that I can continue expanding, growing, becoming a better person. So I did write in the book in 1987 that at its most profound, the word Urs is a call to us for endless, dedicated, non-stop pursuit of improvement and perfection. The short-term version of it is just a greeting, Urs, like that. We do it all the time. Now we've got guys in the BJJ school doing it all the time. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that answers that. One can think of Goju Hudson as being strong from a position of gentleness. Yes, in fact, and for those who don't know, Sensei Mike's a very highly respected Goju instructor who's written a number of books, including my favorite, which is the Shingi Tai book. And that point of the Goju, the Goju karate, most people know, but Go, if you like, is the hard, and Ju is soft. And Ju as in Jiu-Jitsu, Ju as in Judo is the same Ju in Goju. And to me, the most important thing is that it provides balance. It doesn't mean sometimes you have to be hard, sometimes you have to be soft. What it means is that at the end of the day, in a long-term pursuit of the Budo way, balance is important. Okay, I recognize that when you're in your 20s and you're smashing to win a tournament and you're training for your tournament career and you want to be the best in the world, there's not a lot of balance. Seriously, your dedication is that hard training. It doesn't necessarily mean that your fighting style is what they would call a hard style. Kyokushin often gets classified as a hard style, but I would argue otherwise, that the real meaning of a hard style is hard, deep, long, linear.
Yeah.
Whereas the real meaning of a soft style is circular, and Sosai is adamant, and Kyokushin is very circular. You've only got to look at the way they move, the way they throw the kicks. Everything is very circular. And Sosai himself pointed out that he had a profound experience where he realized that everything comes off circles. The circle and point theory, that was central to Kyokushin. So even when we do our mawashi, we don't do it necessarily Goju style. We do a large motion because it's similar to Enkai Gyatsuki and it's similar to our shito. So a lot of things that we do comes off circles. So we're very much a soft style that trains very, very hard. So, and clearly, because Sosai was predominantly influenced by his teacher Sonei Chu, who was a Goju teacher, and Sosai's training was predominantly in Goju after Shotokan. So the whole concept of Goju provides a framework, if you like, or a mental reminder of the value of balance, that sometimes you need to be hard, sometimes it's okay to be soft. But also in training too, you need the hardness of training. You can't just be soft all the time. We see that all the time in martial arts, where it may be a soft style. So in their head, they think, well, I'm never going to train hard. I'm not going to do push-ups on my knuckles or whatever. I'll just doesn't work. If it really worked, my argument is there's one style on the Gold Coast which kind of professes itself to be a bit of a hard, tough, unbeatable, untouchable style. Yet you never see any of their guys not only competing in competition, but competing in MMA. And, I think even though that's not the yardstick, and we know that because in a kata, you're facing multiple opponents in multiple directions with multiple techniques. When you fight competition, you're fighting with this part of your hand. But we also have the back fist. Yeah, we have the elbows, the back elbows. We have the headbutts. We have all that sort of stuff, which is banned. So if you want to find out what really works in karate, we'll look at the rules of MMA and use all the things you're not allowed to use.
Shihan, and one thing that you spoke about, and I think it was only last week or the week before, that's also when he'd signed his signature, he had that philosophy: be as hard on yourself like a lion, but as kind and gentle to others like a flower.
Yes.
And that's another great example that he did with the hard and soft.
If I had my pad, I could draw it for you. But at the end of Sosai's signature, he did what's called a kao. Kao, I mean, it's just like a, they use a chop in China and Japan and Korea and so on. But instead of the chop, it's actually a personally designed arrangement of kanji. And it's really interesting in Japan because, and anywhere where they do Chinese characters, because there's a right and a wrong way to do it. So everyone writes very similarly. People spend a lot of time perfecting their style of writing. So signatures, as we know them, aren't necessarily accepted for legal documents. So you have to sign plus do a chop, and that's because everyone's writing is the same. So there is a tradition called the kao where people would choose kanji, a combination of kanji that gives them a message that they feel connects to their life, and they'd write it in a very stylized version. It's very interesting to see. And Sosai's version, which he always wrote after his name, was he wrote the kanji for lion, the lion, the animal lion, but he wrote it so that it looked like a flower. And I asked him once what it meant. And he said, well, when it comes to your own principles and yourself, you have to be as strong as a lion. But when it came to others, you have to be as gentle and giving as a flower. And it was very beautiful when he said it. I probably teared up a bit because, Sosai was known in the martial arts world as being a vicious, like seriously, take no prisoners fighter. But there was a flip side to him, and that kindness and gentleness, everyone who ever spent time with him will tell you, when he liked you, that kindness was palpable. Marco, what do you think was or is the finest Kyokushin Karateka tournament competitor? Look, there's been so many of them, and it's hard to compare one generation to the other. The first generation guys did their best with what they had, and over time, things just got better and better. You can even look at the Kyokushin World Tournament. You look at the standard in 1 and 2 and 3, the tournaments, and 4, and there's a leap from 3 to 4, I think, and then a leap from 4 to 5. So over time, the quality of tournament fighter just improves exponentially. In Australia, I think back in the early days, I fought in the very first Australian Kyokushin Championship, which was 1978, and I got cracked with a beautiful roundhouse kick by a guy named Les Pickersgill. And to me, Les's roundhouse kicks were just sublime. And I still have the lump where he kicked me. He actually literally, I think, changed my skull, and for a year or even longer, when I train, I get a buildup of fluid here. Probably should have done something about it. But anyway, it didn't affect me at all.
You look fine.
But anyway, so that first generation, you had guys like Les Pickersgill and others Nick Kujic, who's still training today. Peter Wolf isn't training, but he was fantastic. And then over the years after that, you had levels of fighters. And what you do is, see, one of the things you have to do, and if you want to be a good tournament fighter, is you have to be conscious of what's current. And you have to have an answer to what's current. Even if you don't use those techniques of what's winning tournaments, you have to be aware of them so that you can deal with them. And what was winning tournaments back then and what's winning tournaments now have become very different. Or at least maybe there's a wave like this, that certain things come and go. Okay, so fighters addressed what was important to them back then. And then over time, innovation meant that changed. So I think deep down, of course, I'm quite biased. I think Wally Schnaubelt, who was one of my first 2 Uchideshi, along with Gary O'Neill, he won Canada, second or third in Brazil, second in Russia, he fought the final with a dislocated knee, first in Wales, second in England, 7 times Australian champion. He beat Sam Greco, the great Sam Greco. He beat Sam Greco in the last Kyokushin fight that Sam Greco ever had. He competed against Pete Rolling Thunder, Peter Graham, the Chief. And I have nothing but respect for Pete, because Pete fought Wally and then came chasing him, and he kept wanting to fight him. He didn't just walk away from it. He wanted to fight Wally over and over and over, and he fought Wally 6 times. I think Wally beat him 6 times, probably knocked him out 5 of the 6. So I think Wally is underestimated. I really believe that. He's one of the best. And no doubt Gary O'Neill. I think to this day, even though there have been a lot of great champions over the years, there's no doubt that Gary O'Neill comes to anyone's mind if they're aware of it. So I think those 2 particularly. Peter Collis, who still trains with us. He trains at Ben Ajamian's dojo still to this day, just down the road from here. Pete was a finalist in the Australian Championships 10 times, 5 first, 5 second, and also made the final 16 in the 3rd World Tournament. And that was pretty incredible. So Frank Everett, my instructor, was very influential. He had an influence in Grant Radonich, who made the final 32 in the 1st World Tournament. He was a direct teacher of Tony Bowden, who made the final 32 in the 2nd tournament. He was Peter Collis's first teacher and a direct influence on Peter, who made the final 16 in the 3rd tournament. He was my first Kyokushin teacher, and for all intents and purposes, my main teacher. I made the final 32 in the 4th World Tournament. In the 5th World Tournament, I believe Mick Young may have made
Mick Young, 32.
Mick Young. And Mick Young's teacher, Trevor Field, was also a direct student of Frank Everett. So Mick was very much influenced by Frank. 6th World Tournament, of course, you had Gary, came 4th. Wally made the final 16 and won the Tameshi Wadi Award. All these people are very strongly influenced by Frank. And it's not like Frank was an amazing tournament fighter. I doubt if he ever fought a Kyokushin tournament in his life. But what he did was he taught people how to condition their body and how to be mentally strong. So there you go. Where are we? Well, daily training doesn't have to be a big production number in the dojo, as you say. Just get up, stretch, walk through kata, isolate a problem exactly for 5 minutes. I keep going back to that. That the single measurement of anything in terms of time and training is a single breath. And if you say, I haven't got time for training, I meet guys all the time. They used to train with me when they were a teenager. Oh, yeah, I want to come back. I don't know why I stopped. Well, I don't know why I stopped either. But if nothing else, a single breath. And you can do that in a meditation type breath, because if you do one, I guarantee you'll do 2. Or you can do it in an ibuki style, or you can do it in a breakout for Sanshin, and then you take Sanshin and you take it to the next level. There is nothing to stop anyone from training regularly. And like Sensei Mike says, it's just 5 minutes, man. Just set yourself 5 minutes. Some people train regularly once a week at the dojo, and sometimes that's all they can do, especially when you get older. But if you want to connect yourself to being a warrior, to being a Budoka, being a warrior through the martial arts principle of Budo, 5 minutes a day. Just do something. Just get up and have a stretch. Get up, swing your shoulders. Scapular retraction and expansion is another thing we were thinking of talking about, but we're not going to have time. Okay? Just get up and just do some scapular retraction and do some hikite movements and open up your chest. And that has such physiological benefits. It's just insane, So that's a good point. And how do you think tournaments should adapt to include a little bit of grappling to emphasize correct technique? Yes and no. They've already done that. You could look at, I remember in the very early stages of MMA, I was at an event in the 90s, and I was asked to fill in some time because the fighters weren't ready. So I pointed out that, if you like, MMA is a combination of all the Olympic fighting arts and all the best known fighting arts. So you have the hands of boxing and kickboxing, You have the kicks of Muay Thai and karate. You have the grabs and throws of wrestling, and you have the groundwork of Jiu-Jitsu and also Judo. So MMA is a combination of all those things. I know where Anthony's question's coming from, because he's had some fantastic experiences lately where he's expanding his own Kyokushin to include the other ranges. So I'm very adamant. Of course, we have the 5 ranges. We talk about that all the time. But in terms of tournaments, the thing I love about Kyokushin tournaments, that there's good tournaments and bad tournaments. There's rough fighters and not so, and exceptionally beautiful fighters. I think the tournament rules as they are, essentially haven't changed since Sosai started the Kyokushin tournaments in the late 60s. Seriously, the only difference I remember is when I fought in the first tournaments, we were allowed to connect our hands behind. We weren't allowed to do the Muay Thai style, but we could pull the head down like this and knee, and so we used that to the advantage. But I think they realized fairly quickly that it could be quite dangerous in a Kyokushin scenario, where my argument is, well, people will adapt. Once again, if the thing they need to learn to deal with in a tournament is someone grabbing the head and pulling them down, they're going to get better at it. You've only got to look at Muay Thai fighters to know that's the case. But in terms of the Kyokushin rules, I love their purity, their simplicity. They haven't changed at all, and it's very easy to understand. There's a beautiful documentary on Filio at the moment on YouTube. I just saw it. Maybe it's been around for a while, but if I could find the link, I will put it up. But you can see how beautiful Kyokushin tournaments can be in that, and the way it lends itself then to kickboxing and Muay Thai and so on. So many Kyokushin people have gone into Muay Thai and kickboxing. The tradition of the Dutch kickboxers, which is renowned, is essentially a combination of the Muay Thai skills, kickboxing skills, boxing skills, combined with Kyokushin foundational skills and that spirit of Budo. So it's very, very interesting. So, Anthony, I think there's already enough opportunities if guys want to pursue a tournament style fighting where there's grappling and punching, kicking, all that. Well, then there's plenty of MMA, and even you look at Shuto. Shuto has graded levels as well, where the lower levels don't allow, say, elbows to the face and so on. So you can work your way up. I think there's plenty of opportunity there. I do a daily dynamic stretch routine, 2 or 3 kata, some strength work, light shadow sparring, 30 minutes. See, now that's so good. And I know Roland's not a spring chicken. He's in there. I think, if I recall, tell me, Roland, I think you're around 60. So that's so good. Now, I guarantee that some days Roland doesn't have time to do his 30 minutes. But if you have established the habit of doing that, you get up, and even when you have to rush out to work or get ready to catch a plane or go to an earlier than normal engagement, you will have a foundation, and you will know in your own body what your body and mind need to do. So it may just be a little bit of stretch work, 1 3-count exercise, 1 Sanshin, 1 Tensho. Maybe that's it, so there's plenty of opportunity. That's so good. Good morning, Mac. Nice to see you, Shihan Mac. Shihan Mac, I think you fought in the second world tournament, didn't you? It was good on your roll, and it's difficult to make karate a way of life. Yes, there you go. The way of life. That's Budo. The way. Make karate a way of life. And you're not doing it if you limit your mind to 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not minimizing that. That's better than nothing at all. It's actually way better than nothing at all. But it is more a hobby or an activity rather than a lifestyle choice. So signature was a show of yin and yang. Yeah, that's true. Why are the hands brought together in Mokuso as a start in many kata? Also, I said there is nothing arbitrary. And also, I guess it is a respect thing. Mike could probably answer this more than me because I'm not 100% familiar with the history of Okinawan karate. But there was very, very strong influence from China. And China, if you look at China all the time, everything they do in all the traditions is they start with that traditional bow. And the Chinese, you see it in every kung fu movie's ever been. They do this. And I have a very strong conviction that this was turned into that. And so you have that. But there was also said there's nothing arbitrary. So even this move here, there's a couple of easy interpretations for it. Just right here, I'm going to bring the hands up so you can see. But Mitch grabs my hands, let's say, see like this. And you can just let go for a sec. Look, my hands, if my hands come up and go down, my hands come up and go down, and you can literally snap a wrist. Or so there is application for it. There's also the application that when, and I'm not saying that this every single application is available every single time, but there's also the application where Mitch goes to grab and I come up here, and then you have that sort of thing, or grab me, boom, and there's that where the hand's coming down with the arm over the shoulder, and he goes to choke me. So Mitch puts on a choke, boom, and I intercept, but I do it the way we do the bow. So there's just a couple of simple physical.
I remember Shihan Pete telling me one day when he was doing bouncing work, the hands coming together. When someone threw a punch, he'd call it the, I'm not going to mention it here, but the oh no, basically, oh no, put the hands together to get off the center line to be able to defend himself.
Yeah, there you go. So the whole concept of the hands staying together, we've worked on that before. So that's that interpretation. Shihan Mac. I remember training Margaret Street Dojo while he was a beast. Yeah, good on you, Mark. That's really nice to see you here. Appreciate that. It was a hell of a dojo. I got to say that I would almost put money on there wasn't a dojo in Australia that trained as hard as us, as regularly as us. We were training 6 days a week, and it was nothing for us to have people to do a dojo, what they call dojo yaburi. They'd come in and they want to put it on us. And even had one guy turn up in his Muay Thai shorts and wraps, and he wanted to fight us. And very rarely did they get through the warm-up. Wally said once, well, what do we do now? The guys just kind of crumbled in the basic session. It was a harder than normal basic session. But anyway, yeah, it was a great dojo, Mark, and the fact that you were there is just fantastic. Wally was a beast. Okay, we might wind it up there. Good session. Went longer than I expected, but some great questions. I hope you got something out of that. We'll see what we can do about refining it. I'm working on editing the videos and making them a little more palatable. That's palatable. Where are we? There you go. Now it's palatable.
Hardly.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks, Mitch.
All sound.
Appreciate it. It was Mitch's idea to do this today because I literally just got back from Japan this morning. Let's look forward to David. Is that David Hughes? I love training at Margaret Street. I'm not. Who's that David there? David just said I love training at Margaret Street. I'd be really keen to know if that's David Hughes. Us rolling. Us. Good on you. Appreciate your encouragement. You're the only reason we're here, Ryan. Every day we look at it and we go, oh, we got how many? 17 people. Yeah. But here we are 5 years later. We're still hanging in there because of nice comments like that. And I always forget. But if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It really is helping us get to where we want to go. And one more subscriber is all we ever need. If we keep getting another subscriber, we're laughing. Appreciate it. Pass the word around. If you think our content will help someone, let them know and get them to subscribe, hit the bell, all that. See you next week. Maybe next week. I'm not sure. I'm back in Japan again. But if I can do something from Japan, no, I won't. I won't be there. But anyway, your channel truly great, and your students are so blessed to have you. Well, and we're blessed to have viewers like you.
On, Ryan.
Yeah, who keeps encouraging us to do our best. But I'm really keen, David. Is that man? Oh man, it's really nice to see your name, Dave. And I can see that David there. David was fantastic. He trained with us. He was never Kyokushin, but he trained regularly and he trained hard. And David, yes, that's so. And David, that David there, was one of the hardest training students. And I swear to this day, he still has a connection to training. I always laugh. Dave came and laid a slab at my house at Marika Way.
Oh, yeah.
Once. And I was running then. I was doing marathons, and I'd come back from a run. And I remember Dave one day said, "Oh, you're going for a run. Can I come?" And so we were running 8Ks up the valley and 8Ks back. And Dave was a much fitter, faster runner than me. And all I remember was that was a bad mistake saying to Dave to come, because I'm running, and I was 16Ks wasn't a problem, but the speed that he wanted to run it was a problem. So there's what they call the talk test. When you're running, have you breached that
anaerobic threshold?
That threshold, that what they call the deflection point. You can run forever, one beat under your deflection point, one beat over, you've hit the anaerobic threshold. Dave was taking me way above my anaerobic threshold. So all I remember, it was a great run. I don't even remember, Dave. It was just one of the nicest runs. We went right up the valley and back, and up to my house was like literally a half a kilometer hill up there. Yeah. And so I worked out a strategy as we were running, because I hadn't seen Dave for a while. So I'd ask Dave a question, and then he'd answer, but he'd answer for like half a kilometer, and I'm just focused on trying to keep up and keep my breath. It was funny. I don't know if I ever told you that story, Dave, but anyway, I have to say it's a real pleasure to see your name there, Dave, and I feel very honored that you've come and joined us. Anyway, thanks, guys. We look forward to seeing you next time. Us.